Answer this question, simple question. Are LSTs still relevant? And the answer is yes. Thank you. Any questions? My opinion is not going to change until the end of presentation, but I just want to give more color to this answer and say why I think LSTs are still relevant, maybe more than ever. So before we start, this is me. As introduced, the role is Master of DeFi. I'm contributor to Lido DAO. And generally what I'm trying to do is create more utility for Lido Staked ETH, for Lido Rep Staked ETH, make it more accessible to everybody, pretty much make it the most demanded and accessible Ethereum asset in space. These are my handles. DeFi Ako works both on Telegram and Twitter, so feel free to reach out, feel free to follow. We're gonna go through a quick reminder on LSTs on Lido. Don't want to spend too much time there. Then I want to point out what has changed now. Why are we even talking about relevancy of LSTs? Because for anybody who was in space a year back, 2 years back, knows that LSTs were kind of the main thing in the ecosystem, and now we are seeing a big hype, big narrative around restaking and liquid restaking. And lastly, to round up, clarify why LSTs are still a thing. So quick reminder, LSTs generally make staking simpler, more secure, and decentralized. This is a general statement. Obviously, there are many different flavors of LSTs. Some approaches are more decentralized, some approaches are more centralized, but this should be the general idea. So a couple of main pointers of LSTs compared to traditional staking. And when I'm saying traditional staking, I mean you getting your ETH, running a validator, maintaining it as a solo staker, and collecting rewards without any pooling, without any abstraction. So first of all, with LSTs, you get the receipt token, which is fully transferable. It's permissionless, which means that as you staked, you can do, well, pretty much whatever you want. You can send it. You can move it to centralized exchange. You can use it in DeFi. You can unstake anything you want. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. And then it's abstracting the infrastructure. To be honest, if you want to do a traditional type of staking, it's not for everybody. You have to be pretty technical. I mean, there are really, really good solutions that make it easier for you. But still, there needs to be some kind of level of technical knowledge alongside other barriers. So it's abstracting the infrastructure in a nice way. It's still transparent, because I think it's really important to have a transparent way to see what's actually powering the rewards. Is it actually decentralized, where the ETH that you stake is going towards? But it's abstracting it for you in a sense where if you don't want to run your own, you would rather give it to somebody else who you consider more professional, or ideally to multiple of those entities, as we are seeing now with the expansion from the curated node operator set in Lido to simple DVT as a loan. Mentioned previously, it's a really, really nice thing. Community staking module, which allows onboarding of solo stakers. So like great advantages when it comes to decentralization and making the infrastructure more robust. Lowering the economic barrier to entry. You don't need to have 32 ETH. Technically, you only need one way, which is very little. So it's accessible to everybody. And it's also accessible in other ways, because it's integrated in many DeFi protocols. It's available on centralized exchanges. So staking directly on Ethereum mainnet is not the only way how you can actually start earning rewards from validator, securing the network, and helping decentralize. Whatever way you use to get staked ETH is perfect. And obviously broad ecosystem of integrations. You can have both utility in DeFi and staking rewards. With ETH, you need to choose one or the other. So this is the current Lido state. Maybe today it went a little bit up, so maybe we hit 30 billion again. It's US dollars, around $580 million of TVL in liquidity. 147K of rep staked ETH on L2s, which again makes the asset more accessible and cheaper to use. 295K unique stakers, 8 official L2 and L1 expansions, and 3 upcoming Starknet mode and sorry. Okay, I'll get back to that. Got stuck. So what has changed now? Pretty much points, restaking LRTs, but mainly points. Restaking, I really like it. I think it's an innovative mechanism, and I think we're gonna hear a lot about restaking in the future. But so far, the whole thing, when it comes to returns, is mostly driven by 2 things: staking APR and points APR, which is really abstracted. So when it comes to restaking, you can have native ETH restaking, which I don't really like the term native ETH restaking, because if you stake ETH using Lido, it's also natively staked, but okay, the terms stick. And LST restaking, so you can deposit different LSTs into restaking protocols like EigenLayer, Symbiotic, or Karak. What it does then is reusing the value of locked collateral to secure multiple other services. Those services can be L2s, it can be oracles, it can be layers for anonymity, ZK proofs, whatever, data availability services. But pretty much any new service that needs their own security can borrow security from the value of restaking layer. And all of that fits perfectly in the modular vision of Ethereum, which I am a firm believer of. There's a huge inflow of new services that want to borrow security. Personally, I'm kind of cautious of this, not in a bad way. I just think that currently the market is driving kind of the opposite narrative, where some services are seeing a good opportunity to become those actively validated services to get extra benefits. But probably if there wasn't for restaking, they would probably went some other way. Where when I was reading initially the first restaking white paper, I was thinking other way around. Oh, this is cool. We have this restaking layer, so we can have L2s that are already there, and they can borrow security from EigenLayer. They will generate fees because they're already utilized. But now the whole economy is kind of going the other way around. But we'll see. We'll see. As I'm saying with everything, it's really new. It needs some time to actually create a new base layer, some firm ground, and we see what's going to be built on top. And the first thing that's built on top is intuitively LRTs. The same thing as with staking. There's liquid staking. With restaking, there's liquid restaking. So what LSTs are for staking, LRTs are for restaking. And LRTs are, in one way, in a lot of ways actually, risk management layers. LSTs are also in some sense risk management layers, but those risks, those different parameters that you can change there's much lower number of them. With LRTs, you can choose collateral, for example. You can choose if you're just going to accept pure ETH and do only native restaking. You can choose if you want to do LSTs, then you can choose which LSTs. Then you can choose if you want to do hybrid or if you want to isolate them fully into separate LRTs. And then you need to choose operators, which choose AVSs. So you see where I'm going. Like there's a lot of parameters that you have to choose. Probably it's going to be chosen by governance at some point. But still, even those underlying layers can be changed. AVSs can, not saying disappear, but can get underutilized, or some AVSs can appear, and then you have maybe like friction of onboarding new AVSs, changing operators, because you need to actually withdraw stake from the operator and then redeposit, which is not optimal for the APR and stuff like that. And you have a bunch of options to choose from. As any new narrative happens, there's a lot of LRTs, so you need to be really, really careful which LRT are you choosing, because as I said, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. But currently, thankfully, slashing is not enabled on EigenLayer, so you are most likely in good hands. but always keep in mind there's smart contract risk. So be cautious of audits and do your own diligence. So why LST still? Well, would you make good fries with bad potatoes? That's a question. There is no risk-taking without staking. What I'm trying to say with this is that a core part of risk-taking is actually staking. As I mentioned, currently, majority of the value, the real value, is still being created purely by staking. So that means that if you want to build the best liquid risk-taking token, you should probably build it using the best potatoes, using the best staking product. So keep that in mind. And then consider building an LRT business, and then you have to build from scratch everything that, for example, Lido did, plus LRT on top. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Instead, I mean, that's my opinion. Instead, what you can do is you can integrate an LST, robust battle-tested LST. You pay 10% on the rewards. Basically, it's a service fee, but it saves you a lot of trouble, and you don't have to dive into any technicalities when it comes to that. Your staking part is fully abstracted, and you just focus on the things mentioned before. You choose which LSTs, you choose where to delegate, where to restake, which AVSs, and deal with really, really important parts. So when it comes to risk assessments, this is just wrapping up, but I think I answered a lot of these points already. With abstracting things, with moving parts underneath, there's obviously higher friction and bigger challenge to do the risk assessment for restaking, for LRTs, at least now. The returns are not that explicit. When it comes to LSTs, it's very, very simple. There are some things that you can add, like MEV boost, maybe pre-comps in the future, but still, it's still Ethereum validation. You know what it is. Maybe there will be minimal viable issuance changes, maybe, but that's all calculated. So when it comes to a certain user base that looks into risk profiles, well, you're gonna have a lot of advantages providing this specific service. So I get asked a lot of times, I still get asked, is Lido staked ETH is gonna become an LRT? Well, my answer is it shouldn't be, exactly because of that. There's a lot of value in Lido staked ETH being and staying, in my opinion, the best staking middleware. And that's also reflected both in DeFi integrations when it comes to the collateral use, values, risk parameters, and for the institutional adoption. Plus the maturity of underlying services. So we know what is Ethereum. Ethereum protocol has been alive for quite some time. After the merge, after the launch of Beacon Chain, we got specifications for staking. There are changes, but things are going pretty slow. So we are all adapting to these changes. And when it comes to the restaking part, as I mentioned, there's a lot of services being launched, well, pretty much every day. So they just need time to develop, to start getting utilized, to start producing revenue, to get battle tested, to get actual value inside. So we know what we are actually dealing with here. So that's all. Thank you.